No? How about now?
Yep.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the June 17th, 2019 meeting of the Orlando City Council. We're going to begin today's proceedings with the invocation, which will be led today by Pastor Dr. Cloer, who was born in Asheville, North Carolina. Since October 2003, he's been the senior pastor of the 2,600-member Church at the Cross in Orlando. He received his Master of Divinity in 1995 and a PhD from Mid-American Baptist Theological Seminary and his BS in Management from Clemson. Pastor Cloer has been married to his wife, Linda, for 28 years. They are the proud parents of two sons. He has preached extensively throughout the U.S. in college chapels, revival meetings, and has led church development, leadership training, and evangelism trips to Paraguay, Yemen, Belgium, China, South Korea, and a whole bunch of more countries all around the world. After the invocation will be led, the Pledge of Allegiance led today by one of the city's permitting services development review technicians, Cobbin McGee. Cobbin was a sergeant in the United States Army and served primarily as an Army bandsman on active duty for over 6 years. As a non-commissioned officer, he performed in several unit offices of responsibility, and including admin, equal opportunity representation, and transportation. He considers his best job during Operation Desert Storm, where he earned the National Defense Service Medal. You may stand or remain seated.
Well, God, we thank you today for the way that your grace has been so apparent in our city. We thank you for blessing Orlando, and we pray for her today. We pray for the peace of our city in this season. We pray for the comfort for our city in this season as well. Lord, for all the proceedings that are going on this week in our city, as well as even in these moments here, we commit them to you and pray for your guidance, pray for your wisdom. And we pray for the servants that are throughout our city that are serving you in our community. Thank you for each one, whether they're in corrections or in healthcare or in law enforcement. Lord, our government officials, we thank you for each one, and we commit them to you. And we pray for the soul of our city, that we would be very tender-hearted to one another, care for one another, serve one another with a genuine spirit in a way that would honor you and value each one. So we commit this time to you and the city beautiful. And I pray in the name of Jesus, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of a quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan. Here. Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Ings.
Here.
Mayor Dyer.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum with all members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, first item of business are the meeting minutes from the workshop agenda review and city council meetings of June the 3rd. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Okay, we don't have any awards or presentations or recognitions today, so I'll go right into the mayor's update. Just a few things. We've had a lot going on from the Pulse Remembrance last week to the president's visit tomorrow to state of the city is next Monday, June 24th at 10 a.m. It had been scheduled for tomorrow, but obviously we thought it was in the best interest of our city employees if we move the state of the city to a date other than when the president is going to be here. Our resources are going to be a little taxed tomorrow as it is, so we didn't want to complicate things even more. So I look forward to seeing you there, 10 a.m. Monday, June 24th. As I mentioned, tomorrow the president will be here, and I'm guessing this will not be the last visit to Orlando that we have from presidential candidates on both sides of the aisle. And given the fact that there's 25 or so Democratic ones, we'll probably have a few of those through here at some point. But I know tomorrow's visit has evoked feelings on both sides, but it's my hope that Orlando will once again remind the country that we're a community that is welcoming and inclusive, and we can have differing opinions and be of different political parties, but we can still treat each other with respect and with dignity. So I encourage those who need to travel tomorrow in and out of downtown to plan for some additional time, especially after 6 o'clock or so. I've been told there are people that are in line already over by the Amway Center. So if you have the ability, if you're coming downtown, to use some alternative means of transportation like limo or Sunrail or bike share, it might be helpful in getting around. And you can follow City of Orlando on Twitter for up-to-date traffic information. Fireworks at the fountain Thursday, July 4th, Lake Eola Park, begins at 4 o'clock, and about 9:20 we will have a fabulous 20-minute finale. On the agenda today, I just want to mention Commissioner Gray, Narcoossee Road widening improvements. I know that
Can't wait, sir. Can't wait.
your folks are happy about that. The Camping World Improvement funding agreement with the county. I want to thank the county for making this happen. It's an additional $60 million to finish the job on the stadium. And I think I can hold the rest till later on. Okay, with that, we give each of our commissioners an opportunity to comment. We're moving to the consent agenda to comment on items on the consent agenda and or update you on important happenings from their district. We rotate the order that we do that, and Commissioner Ings is first up today.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to express my condolences to the Lohman Eason family on the passing of Mother Mildred Lohman Eason. She was the pastor and shepherdess of Community Fellowship Church of God in Christ. Her church was is in District 6 off of McLeod Road and John Young. And Pastor Eason was also supervisor of the Women's Department of Florida Central 2nd Ecclesiastical Jurisdiction. Her funeral was held Friday, June 14th, at the First Baptist Church of Orlando. And also on Thursday, June 6th, I attended the National Neighbor Works Week celebration, which included a community resource and health awareness fair, and this was held at the City View Apartments at 595 West Church Street. ONIC, Orlando Neighborhood Improvement Corporation, its president and CEO, Bob Ansley, were there on hand with the young people and people of the community. As a matter of fact, it was held in the courtyard of City View, and that's a beautiful area and location. And then on Wednesday, June 12th, I attended the Pulse Memorial that was held at the Pulse Interim Memorial there on Orange Avenue. This was the third year of the incident of the Pulse tragedy there at the Pulse. And thanks to Barbara Palmer and the Pulse families for their commitment to never forgetting and also honoring those first responders and hospital medical providers, and also our community donors that have attributed so much to the Pulse Memorial. And then lastly, I attended the 244th United States Army birthday ball that was held at the Rosen Center at the Grand Ballroom there on International Drive. The theme was America's Army, honoring the call to service from D-Day to today. And Sergeant D. Jones, retired Army, was the president of the AUSA Sunshine Chapter and coordinator of this Army Ball. And I would also say that the oldest veteran was 96 years old, and he was in his right mind, great capacity. 96-year-old sergeant, and he was there at D-Day as well. He was one of the gunners in the Air Force as they flew over Normandy. So This was a great event, very well attended, and the Army looked very good. As a matter of fact, they had lots of other support from the military to celebrate the Army's 244th birthday. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mayor. The activities in my district are on a website. We've got a big agenda, so I'll get right to it. There's 3 items I'd like to mention. One, the mayor mentioned item B1, the widening of Narcoossee Road. Certainly want to thank the staff for their efforts so far. I understand this is one of, if not the biggest road projects we've done. It is not simply adding 2 lanes. We're doing utility upgrades, reclaimed water, et cetera, to support the growth in Lake Nona. So I want to thank them on the front end, not only for what they've done, but what they're going to do, because I'm going to refer all calls directly to Public Works. So, Mr. Howard, whatever you need, I'm glad to support you, my friend. But thanks for doing that. That's going to really help support the growth that we have there and some of our traffic issues. Number 2 is items C, 1, 2, and 3. Just wanted to express my support for QTI and a tax rebate request for Amicus Biologics. Again, a great thing that we not only have a great company that's bringing a lot of smart people to our area, but they're also well paid. And we know in this city we need good paying jobs. So we appreciate their consideration. We've got some representatives from Amicus here. Ellen and team, thank you for considering Orlando. Want to thank Habil and the folks at Orlando Economic Partnership, and of course Sherry Gutch and the team here at Orlando for helping facilitate that. So thank you guys, and that has my full support. And finally, G1, which is the additional upgrades to Camping World Stadium. I want to thank the Orange County Board of County Commissioners for supporting that effort with some of our tourist development tax. I've said before, when I moved to town 30 years ago, the wrap on Camping World Stadium was it supports 2 football games a year. Why are we spending all this money? Well, I think we now realize as we've upgraded I think now, Mayor, help me, this is the 3rd step in the upgrade. It demonstrates that we can have a variety of events in Camping World Stadium. And it not only is it a huge economic impact, but what I think we forget sometimes is every time an event is on TV, it showcases Central Florida. And that's why we hope to draw people like Amicus to consider moving their headquarters or their operation here to Central Florida so we can continue to create good jobs. So it's a great showpiece for us, and I want to thank the county for allowing us to use some of those dollars to upgrade that. So with that, Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ortiz?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by thanking Christy Freeze and Alex Bryan for helping us putting up a meeting for the Dover State community on sanitary sewer. There was a project that's going to be taking place in that community, and they did a great job putting everything together, so I just want to thank them. I also want to thank Ms. Dora Santana for holding a coffee with the commissioner, and she went above and beyond. She had a whole dinner for everybody over there. We get to meet with the community every so often, having coffee with the community and the commissioner, so thank you for hosting us. And we have a hero in our district. Mr. Marcio Sicorini was the first in action of a group of people that pulled an unconscious man from a retention pond when his truck lost control due to a diabetic attack. Marcio has been living in Orlando for over 20 years. He's the president of Hibiscus Cove, neighborhood watch captain of Hibiscus Place, and a Greater Orlando Aviation Association supervisor. I believe his quick response to the situation kept the incident from escalating. Health-wise for the victim, and I'm thankful the man he helped is in good conditions, he's doing better. So thank you, Mario. That's the kind of people that we need more and more in our communities, making sure that they're taking care of each other. And our next Neighborhood Leaders Council meeting will be on Thursday, June 27 at 6:30. Location is to be determined, but we will advise. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. Let me share a couple of things. First, thank you big thank you to Judge Lawton. 26 years as judge work here in Orlando. He took over and has created a great deal of stability in the last couple of years, and I'm so grateful for him and grateful for what he has done, and especially being a kind of a hometown boy, which makes it really great. I want to say thank you to the Equal Justice Initiative, the Truth and Justice Project, and the Bridge the Gap Coalition for their work in honoring the July Perry in downtown Orlando that's going to be coming up this week. It's important to our community. In an effort to keep spreading the word about the importance of water safety, the City of Orlando, thanks to our Family Parks and Recreation staff, is once again participating in the world's largest swimming lesson this Thursday, June 20th, at many of our community centers. Please get a chance to come down and support that and review your own safety rules with your family. Thanks to our city transportation staff for their work on the Vision Zero plan. We appreciate that work. Where'd Billy go? Thank you, Billy. Please join them as they unveil the Vision Zero action plan. They're meeting Thursday, June 20th at 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. Is that right, Billy? Yeah. I want to join the College Park Neighborhood Association on Wednesday the 26th at 5 p.m. as they unveil the new mural created by the local artist Christy Hamby, funded as part of the Mayor's Matching Grant Program. I mention this, Mayor, just as a constant reminder. Thank you for continuing that program even in difficult times in our city, because it means a great deal to our individual neighborhoods. I want to tell you how much I appreciate that, so thank you. It's going to be at the side of Dr. Gordy's building at 1215 Edgewater Drive. Please come out and join us. And then, of course, we all love July 4th in our great city. There are lots of great events around, but one I want to mention particularly, and that is the Great American Pie Eating Contest over in Audubon Park Garden District, over at P is for Pie. What a great place to have it. It's going to be on Wednesday, July 3rd at 6 p.m. If my back will hold up, I think I'm supposed to participate. I have to have somebody to bring the pie to my face, and so I haven't got to bend down. So. I'm trying to get a doctor's excuse now why I don't have to attend. A couple of things I want to also share is on the agenda A5. We begin working. Where'd Rick go? Rick Howard. There you are. Thank you very much. I know that we've put the Band-Aids on that particular number 85 lift station, and I appreciate the design work, and now we're moving forward on it. So thank you very much for that and your diligent efforts behind that. As with Commissioner Gray, let me say thanks to Amicus. Love to have you guys be here. You'd be an important asset to our community, so thank you very much letting us consider that. And then in the Camping World Stadium is always a big deal. My brother has a unique recognition of being the only person never to have missed a Citrus Bowl game in his entire life and in the life of Citrus Bowl. He came as a 1-year-old, and then my dad made us come all our entire lives, and he became a president. And so for the last 47 or 48 years, whatever that comes down to, he has not missed a game. And so he plans his entire holiday schedule about that one particular game so he can go and continue that same record. So this has been an important economic engine for us, and Mayor, I appreciate your leadership in making it even more important over the course of the last decade. So I'm happy that Orange County is going to consider this. I hope that they will pass it unanimously as we would want them to do, and then we can move forward in this project and complete this stage of the project. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Commissioner, I thought the legend was that your mother was pregnant with George during the first
No, actually the
time
game was
he
in
there.
1946. First game was 46, and George was born in January of 46, and the first game was in December of 46. I did tell that story because I'd forgotten my brother was so old.
All right, Commissioner Sheehan.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And Commissioner, if you need someone to pie in your face, I think we could find some volunteers. Thank you, Mayor.
Free zone.
There you go. On the agenda today, I'm delighted to see Amicus Biologics too. I think this is a great QTI. Thank you, commissioners, for pulling for new business for MPB, the Hamilton. It's not the musical. This is more the drama, neighborhood drama, but hopefully we can get some resolution to that. On the agenda today also is the joint use agreement with Lake Como School that's going to allow public access to the ball field, playground, green space, tot lot, track, basketball court, baseball field, parking, and restrooms. So it's a great new amenity, working with the school board to make sure that we have public access to that as well. And over the weekend, just if y'all are driving by Lampshade Fair, we did the diversity mural, which is a wonderful project that was done just a bunch of hearts, 1,000 hearts. It was an art project after the Pulse massacre, but it was a community project. And Chris Castro and Jeff Benavides of L.E. Rigby actually did a solar demonstration project. We had kids come in, young people come in, and we taught them how to do solar. It was really cool. They learned how to hook up the batteries, how to actually do a solar installation, and it's now working. And I went to check it out, and it's all working now. So that's awesome, Chris. So I love the marriage of technology and creativity. It's a great project. So if you get a chance to go by and check it out, it's again Lampshade Fair on Mills Avenue. And that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. And finally, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to welcome Amicus, being a nurse of 25 years, and the important work that you're doing. We're just so fortunate to have you here. So welcome. I also like to thank Mayor Dimmons and the Orange County Board. I'm hoping that they do vote unanimous when we start talking about economic development, but more so the impact that it makes around that stadium. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, myself, Commissioner Stewart, and Mayor Dyer broke ground at Lake Larned-Dune on 6-4, which is a $9.2 million project. And just seeing all the development around that West Lakes campus is amazing. And I just could not have done it without this council and your support, Mayor. So thank you all for helping me improve the lives there around that stadium. It means a lot. On June 7th, I attended the Sweet Dreams press conference with my sister council member, Sheehan, in which I am going to be dancing and she's going to be judging, where we're going to be raising monies for the transgender community to make sure those that are homeless have safe and secure shelter. And I'm just so blessed to be a part of that initiative. Because when we think about housing the homeless, they live in the shadows, and it's going to be amazing to be able to have that community. On Saturday, June the 8th, I attended the Empowerment Breakfast for African American professional women that was hosted by the 100 Black Men of Orlando here at the Citrus Club. And that organization has raised over $2 million to help Jones High graduates continue higher education all the way up to their bachelor's and their master's. And we have a few now that's working on their PhD, and they support them every step of the way through college. So I like to applaud the 100 Black Men for the work that they've done there at Jones High School, where I graduated. On June 9th, I joined Mayor Dyer and Mayor Dimmons for Pentecost Sunday. And it was Holy Ghost filled and fire and brimstone. So we had a great time under the leadership of Reverend Terrence Gray and Reverend Willie C. Barnes. Thank you, Reginald McGill, for all that you did to make sure that that was successful. And also Kathy Ramsberger, we would like to thank her at Dr. Phillips, along with, oh goodness, help me, Reggie. I'm not good at Mrs. Barnes. Well, anyway, I apologize for my, call it a brain fart, not to my heart though. I'm getting old. On Wednesday, June 12th, I attended the Adorning of Wreath with Mayor Dyer, Commissioner Stewart, and Commissioner Gray, and Commissioner Sheehan, and also Chief Wells and Chief Malone, where we commemorated the lives there of those that was lost through the post-tragedy. This upcoming events will be having a Lake Larned-Dune hiring event at the Varsity Club on Tuesday, June 25th, 2019 at 5 p.m. And that will be held again at the Varsity Club on June 25th, along with the Urban League and the Brew Plant. Valencia Community College will be coming to Paramore August the 26th, and they have a vocational program with different skill sets, and we will be having an outreach on June 26 at 6:30. As we talk about those that are attending college, everyone isn't going to attend college, but we're trying to make sure here in the city of Orlando that those also that need vocational skills so that they can make honest living wages, we impart into. Those from the Paramore area will be getting stipends, so I'm excited about that because when we think about affordable housing, there's a certain income that you still need to make in order to have affordable housing. And this is just one step that we're taking to make sure that it's all inclusive when it comes to affordable housing for those in Paramore. So I'm looking forward to those making from $15 to $26 an hour upon graduating from that certificate program from 5 to 26 weeks. And that's all that I have, Mayor, and I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? So the motion carries. Do we have any students in attendance today? I thought so. Okay, would you guys stand up, please? Thank you for coming. Okay. We enjoy having you here and hope that you'll learn a little bit or at least be amused by our meeting today. Okay, we are going to, if there's no objection, I'm going to change the order we're going to do the next couple things. We have a refunding that involves the CRA, and we need to vote on it as the City Council before we vote on it as the CRA. So I'm going to move to hearings number 3, which is a resolution approving the bond resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency and authorizing the issuance by the CRA of its tax increment revenue refunding bond series 2020A. So this is a public hearing concerning the proposed adoption of a resolution approving the issuance by the CRA of not to exceed $71,500,000 of tax increment revenue refunding bonds, Series 2020A. The purpose of the bonds is to refund for savings the agency's Series 2010B bonds, which were originally issued to finance a portion of the cost of the Dr. Phillips Center. In compliance with Section 163.346 Florida statutes, this hearing was advertised in the Orlando Sentinel on June the 3rd, 2019. And notices to taxing authorities were mailed on May 29, 2019. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the resolution, please?
Hearing number 3, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, approving the supplemental and bond resolution of the City of Orlando, Florida, Community Redevelopment Agency, the agency, approving and authorizing the issuance and sale by the agency of its tax increment revenue refunding bond, Downtown District, Series 2020A, in an original principal amount not to exceed $71,500,000 for the purpose of financing the current refunding of all or portion of the agency's taxable tax increment revenue bonds, Downtown District Direct Subsidy Build America Bonds, Series 2010B, providing certain covenants and authorizations of city and other matters with respect thereto, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Chris McCullion, our Chief Financial Officer, would you explain what we're doing here?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This item is a public hearing regarding the resolution authorizing the CRAs to issue the bonds. This is a bond refunding. We're refunding some of the CRA debt for debt service savings, which is a good thing, lowering the interest rate on some of the outstanding debt. This City Council resolution, which approves the CRA's issuance of the bonds, is required under state statute. There's a couple other state statute requirements that I'll talk about in a second that we're taking care of today as well. The Series 2020A bonds will refund the CRA's 2010B bonds, which, as the Mayor mentioned, were originally issued for a portion of the cost of Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. We're coming up on the 10-year call date for those bonds, so it gives us the opportunity to refund the debt at a lower interest cost, sort of like refinancing your home mortgage. We worked with our financial advisor, PFM, our issuers counsel, Schutz and Bowen, and our bond counsel, Bryant Miller Olive, to issue a competitive solicitation for bank loans so we could get the most competitive rate possible for the refunding. Bank United, along with Raymond James, submitted a combined bid with the strongest bid for this refunding. So going with that, proposal submitted by Bank United, the refunding is going to result in $14.8 million of debt service savings over the life of the bonds, which is $10.2 million on a present value basis and almost a 15% savings on debt service. So that's really good. Really anything over 5% we consider good. 15% is a good refunding. There's no additional debt being issued. We're only issuing as much debt as we need to refund the existing 2010 bonds. The savings will be able to stay with the CRA and be used over the life of the bonds for other project DTO priorities. And the Finance Committee and the CRA Advisory Boards have both been briefed and approved this refunding. So the other statutory requirements that I mentioned, City Council has to authorize the issuance of the bonds, as we're doing right now with this public hearing. We're also required to provide notice to the taxing authorities, so to the city, the county, the school board, water management district, and downtown development board. We did that on May 29th. We haven't heard any response from any of those taxing authorities on that, so that's a good thing. And then lastly, we're required to advertise this public hearing in the Senate, which we did on June 3rd. So that's all I have for my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions of Chris, Commissioner Hill, and then Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. I heard that you'll be able to use it for DTO funding. Have you included possible housing and Paramore affordable housing in this also? With the savings?
Sure. So the savings are going to be recognized in each of the individual years going out for the next 20 years. So as the CRA is building out their budgets for any of those individual fiscal years, they'll just have that money available for whatever their priorities are at the time. So I would have to defer to Thomas and his team working with the CRA Advisory Board on specific uses of that funding, but we are not pre-programming any of the savings today. They'll recognize that in each of the fiscal years between now and the final maturity date.
So it's not just relegated to the downtown DTO?
No, just
okay.
We use the umbrella term Project DTO, which is the redevelopment plan for the CRA. Any of the funding in the CRA has to be spent on projects that are consistent with the DTO, with the redevelopment plan. So it's sort of short, short form.
Thanks.
Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, this doesn't extend the life of the current. It just is a refunding for the balance of the existing. So the benefit of our city's credit is that we get good credit, we get good borrowing rates, and the result is $14.5 million in savings or $14.8 million in savings. Is that right?
That's right. That's the Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Do we have any cards, Madam Clerk? Okay, discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. All right, without objection, we're going to recess the City Council meeting and convene the CRA meeting, and we have one item, which is the complimentary resolution to be voted on by the CRA. Chris, anything with regard to that? Okay, we're voting on the same thing, just as the CRA versus the city. So a motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Everything that Chris just said applies to this motion as well. So all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, no further business to come before the CRA, so we will adjourn the CRA and reconvene the City Council meeting, and that brings us to our other hearings. So hearing number one is a public hearing for sale of city property valued in excess of $500,000. As required by Chapter 13, Section 7 of the City Charter, notice of the hearing appeared in the Orlando Sentinel on June the 11th, 2019, and approval of the sale will require a majority vote of all members of the City Council. City property is held in the name of the City of Orlando and Orange County, each with 1/2 interest as part of Conserve 2 water reclamation facility. The proposed purchasers are South Lake Crossings 4 LLC and CPB Hilltop LLC. The property, which consists of approximately 250 acres, is located in southeastern Lake County. The contract price and the fair market value of the property is $5,546,000. The contract price will be paid by an exchange of property with a fair market value of $4,581,000 and a cash payment of $965,000. Is there a motion to adopt?
Move to adopt.
Motion by Commissioner Ings, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Discussion among commissioners, hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? And so the motion
Mayor,
carries.
if I may, we had an item of new business.
We did, sorry.
Okay.
You know what? Let's see, we've done the first and second one. Let's go back to new business. Okay, at agenda review, we agreed to move one of the items from the MPB 2019-10020, 2009 Hamilton plat with modifications. So Elizabeth, where are you? Can you come up and give us a little intro into this subject? And then I had 3 speakers cards at agenda review, which I still have, and if there's anybody else that wants to speak on this, if you can turn in a speaker card.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Elizabeth Dang, here to give you a brief overview of the project at 2009 Hamilton Lane. So this project is located east of Hamilton Lane, between Cayley Street and East Harding Street. So the requested action is called a plat with modifications. And the proposal is to build a single-family home on one lot that will be 55 feet wide by 99 feet deep, where the minimum depth is typically 110 feet deep. So that's the modification from the standards of a typical plat. So this map shows that the property has the residential low-intensity future land use designation, the R1 zoning district with traditional city overlay, and this site has a fairly lengthy history. Back in 2003, one owner purchased 3 platted lots, 18 through 20, plus a small portion of lot 17. And in 2006, there was a single-family home constructed on these lots. And for zoning purposes, the city considers the house to bind together those lots. And it's not uncommon for people, if you look at a legal description, to own 2 or more lots with one house on it. So after the home was built, it entered into foreclosure, but at 2 different times and with 2 different mortgages. So in 2010, Lot 18 and the southern portion of Lot 17 was transferred to one new mortgagee owner. And in 2015, a different owner took possession of lots 19 and 20. So this created 2 owners for one housing site. In 2016, the applicant for today's request purchased the Lot 18 and southern portion of Lot 17, and that includes the backyard of the home, a basketball court, a pool, a portion of the pool, and a portion of the garage. So you can see on the survey that the property line runs through the middle of the garage and the pool of the original home. And the aerial photo shows the surrounding neighborhood and Boone High School to the east. The site photos show the existing condition. There was a fence put up around the property, and that fence runs now through the middle of the garage and the pool. So the applicant desires to construct a single-family home on a lot that's 55 feet wide by 99 feet deep. And today, a building permit cannot be issued for that site in the current configuration because the pool and the garage cross the property line. So the applicant proposes to create Lot 1, which would be a new vacant lot that could be available to construct a single-family home, and then to create Lot 2, which is a 15-foot wide lot that could be sold to the property owner to the south, or both property owners could agree to demolish the pool and the garage, and each property owner could maintain the property that they currently own. So when the council reviews this type of plat with modifications, there's 4 criteria in the code that the council should consider. The first one is called the purpose and intent of the comprehensive plan. And this is basically a question, does the density of the proposed development meet the comp plan standards? And the answer is that yes, it does. The second standard is how it would impact the public interest. So they are proposing a new single-family home on a lot that is surrounded by an existing single-family neighborhood. So there are not any adverse impacts, and it is compatible with the surrounding uses. The third item is to look at the public facilities impact. And as with all new development, the property owner is required to pay impact fees, and there is infrastructure available to serve the property. And the fourth and final criteria is if there's a hardship for the property owner in which strict application of a development standard would create a legal hardship. In this situation, they're asking for a modification from the depth of the lot. And all the lots on the block are 99 feet deep. And that's been that way since it was platted in 1927. So that means that that hardship has existed, and there's no possible way to reconfigure the lot to meet the minimum depth. So that's the reason for the modification of standards and the public hearing requirement. And because it's a modification, that allows the council to add conditions of approval that wouldn't normally apply to a typical plat that meets all code standards. And the other difference here in terms of process is that the MPB has included conditions of approval, which I'll show you in a moment, but the MPB recommendation cannot be appealed through the quasi-judicial hearing process as with most other board actions. So that's why you're getting this request today. So the conditions of approval include that lot 2, that skinny 15-foot lot, cannot be built on until it's joined with the property to the north or the south. There's a limit on the floor area ratio, which will limit the square footage of the building. Maximum of 2 stories in height for the new home, and appearance review is required before permitting. So there was quite a bit of public comment received and lengthy testimony at the Municipal Planning Board meeting. The board ultimately did recommend approval based on those 4 criteria in the code. So staff does recommend approval, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay, questions for Elizabeth before we hear from the public? All right, so just be available, Elizabeth. Okay, Julie Kendig.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Kendig with Greenberg Traurig, 450 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida. I'm here today on behalf of Deutsche Bank. My colleague, Beth Naro, represents Deutsche Bank and has with respect to this property for several years. Deutsche Bank is the owner of 615 Harding Street, which is the adjacent property to the applicant, and it is the property that essentially has the main house built on it and half the pool and half the garage. Ms. Naro is out of town and could not be here today. However, she asked that I please attend on her behalf. She has a written letter that I'll provide to put into the record, and then I'll just briefly go over her points. So I know that staff put up a picture, and you could see that basically what has happened is there's a fence essentially built over the top of the pool, halfway through the garage, and there's a fence built on half of the driveway. So our client, Deutsche Bank, has not been able to do anything with this property because of the boundary issues. And basically, we would respectfully submit that this proposed plat does not meet the criteria for issuance of the proposed plat modification. Not as to the 55-foot lot, but particularly not as to the 15-foot lot, the width lot that would be created by this. So essentially, if the plat is granted, you would wind up with a 15-foot lot that contains the pool equipment, portion of the pool, and about a third of the garage that would then be a legal standalone lot that could be transferred to a different ownership. So essentially, with respect to the instant application, it does not meet, it's our position that it does not meet the criteria that's set forward, whether it's the intent of the growth management plan or the public interest. Again, as I indicated, basically you would wind up with a 15-foot standalone lot that is reminding, when you look at it, it almost looks like a spike strip that you can see on a plat that has a little fence around it that then could be not transferred or freely transferred. We also would submit that hardship is not met in this situation because specifically excluded from the definition of hardship is a hardship that was existing at the time of purchase. So this property was purchased in 2016, I believe, by the applicant, which was after the boundary issues occurred. So we would submit that the creation of this 15-foot lot, in addition to the 55-foot lot, does not meet the criteria. And I know that there was a comment, or there's been discussion, that there's a desire to see the parties come to the table to try and resolve this. Believe me, Deutsche Bank wants to get this resolved also, and we are willing to come to the table and to have discussions. We have had discussions, and to continue to have those discussions with the applicant to try to get this situation resolved for the owners and for the community. And again, my partner has worked on this for many years, so if there's any desire for more background or history information, I'm happy to have her, when she returns to town, she can provide any additional information with respect to the background that anyone would like. Thank you.
I have one question, Julie. So
Yeah.
your client owns the house, or most of it, I guess. Wouldn't it advance their position if we split that 15 feet off so that it could be sold separately to your client?
We have tried, and we're in negotiations to try and purchase that. I think we've set forth 3 options. One is that we buy that 15-foot strip for some amount that's agreed to by appraisers as reasonable market value. The other option is that we join with the northern property owner and try and sell both parcels to a third party, again for a reasonable market value as set forth by appraisers. So eventually, I do think that that may be one scenario, or another scenario may be that we join the lots together. So at this point, there's no agreement between the property owners on how to go forward. That scenario may be something that is desirable once an agreement is reached on how to move forward.
Mayor, I've got a question.
Yeah, let me just ask. So how does it compromise your position?
I think our primary concern would be if the 15-foot lot is created, it would enable that to be transferred to a third party who could then, frankly, hold Deutsche Bank hostage. And additionally, at that point, there's no incentive really even for the northern owner to try to get the situation resolved, because then they can build a single-family home on the 55-foot lot, and then
not worry
who
about
cares?
you and the 15
Who
feet.
cares what happens? But we care
Okay.
about what happens with the 15 feet, because that's half our garage and half our pool.
Okay. Commissioner Stewart?
I'm a little confused as to the process. Is the house in foreclosure?
My understanding, and again, I apologize because I don't have all the background fact, that it was in foreclosure,
Okay.
and that Deutsche Bank, who's our client, had a mortgage on the southern part of the lot and foreclosed on it, and that's how we came to own it. Similarly, the northern part had a mortgage on it that was in foreclosure, that was foreclosed by a different entity, which is how now we've come to have 2 different owners on one piece of property, essentially.
So the 3 lots and 15 feet were all originally one owner.
Yes, sir.
And in the foreclosure process, it got split, or I'm confused as to how one owner would buy a portion of that.
Yeah.
I'm just
My-
asking
yeah.
a question. I'm not making an
And
opinion.
I'll do my best to explain, but my understanding is that when the loans were taken, at least the Deutsche Bank loan, it was a vacant lot. It was a construction loan, as I understand. So there were 2 lots. My understanding is our client did not know that the house was going to be built over the lot line. So then when it was built and the loan was foreclosed on, we wound up foreclosing on a house with a pool and a garage that's built halfway over the lot line. But there were 2 mortgages, one on the northern portion and one on the southern. And I hope that's correct. That's my understanding.
Mayor, if I may?
Commissioner Sheehan?
It was under one, all of the lots were under one ownership, but the owner had different mortgages on the 2 properties. So he put the properties together to build upon them, but had different loans. And again, this is a function of this is a function of the mortgage crisis, of not making sure that he had clear title to these properties. This is what happens when you don't make sure that you codify things properly. So that's how you have two different companies, two different mortgages. They should have been consolidated so you wouldn't have this situation. It's a really weird one. Because they have changed the rules now, they can't do this anymore, but this is a cleanup from the crisis that happened, and it's been sitting empty ever since.
I'm just trying to understand that cycle. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Sconyers. And then Patricia Stallworth.
Thank you, Mayor Dyer and Commissioners. My name is Richard Sconyers. I'm at 2008 Hamilton Lane. I'm directly across the street from the subject property. I have a petition signed, as mentioned, from 35 of the residents, and without question, all of the residents along Hamilton Lane that are opposed to this modification. To your point in regards to the purchasing, owner buys the two properties from the same owner. He holds a note with the bank on the structure and the south property, and the original owner holds the note on the northern property. He defaults on both of those, and it ends up in the two different hands. That's how that happened. All right. In regards to hardship, I don't think that was proved because he was aware of that. The issue of the 99 feet and what they're asking for is because of the encumbrance, not that the 99 feet was in existence, but actually the encumbrance was in existence, and it's the reason why RMS Properties bought that lot to begin with. The modification reduces the overall site area as well. So the minimum site area is 6,000 square feet. By reducing this to 55 by 99, you're at 5,445. So you have not only a minimum lot depth, but you have a minimum area that's now being reduced as well. This modification also leaves 615 Harding with a 4.87 foot setback off of the detached garage, where a 5 foot is required. So there's a number of inconsistent rules that are being broken here, basically. The modification is not in kind with the neighborhood. All of the properties along Hamilton are 99 feet deep. However, all of those properties are 75 to 100 feet wide in order to meet the minimum 6,000 square foot areas of the properties. This would be the first and only one that is below the 6,000 on that property line. I'm concerned that that's going to set a precedence, because I know that the gentleman at the end of the block is also trying to sell his 170 feet and split that up into 3 different properties. Now we're going to be dividing these up into little postage stamps along Hamilton Lane, where not one of them exists like that currently. If the city approves this modification, they will be giving RMS all the leverage in the negotiation of this, because as you pointed out, they will sit on that 15 feet, and there's no mode to sell the 15 feet, and he's just going to sit on it and hold 615 Harding hostage, and that will leave that abandoned infinitely. Again, the planning board said that it was not in their purview to help or figure out the negotiation between the two property owners. However, I will say that the city is in part responsible for this. They issued a city building permit for a house sitting across 2 plat lines. Although the same owner, it was held by 2 different creditors. They should have at least divided the property line at that point in time, but they didn't, and now we're in the mess that we are in. If you approve this modification, they're going to continue to hold 615 Harding hostage. The empty lot is not the issue, it's really the abandoned house. My wife and Patty and Marbs had to kick squatters out, and that was over a weekend in April of 2018. I will say that is this up? Yeah. So this fence that they said, this just went up 2 months ago. RMS has had the property for 3 years, and just now they're putting the fence up to stake their claim when the bank was trying to auction off the house. And I will tell you, in the last 2 months, the RMS property has not been maintained, it has not been mowed. And with all the rains that we've had, you can imagine what that looks like now. So they've created even a worse situation by this. At the end of the day, I think you're right. You would have to agree to do this modification in order to build a house there. But we're saying that they solve the property line dispute first and then give them the modification. That's my request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Patricia Stallworth.
Hello, my name is Patty Stallworth, and I live at 2005 Hamilton Lane. So I am the property owner, and I live just to the north abutting this property that is in question. And I would like to just quickly thank you all for allowing us to speak and voice our objections. There are a host of very serious issues with this property. And I feel like they went very much unnoticed by the Municipal Planning Board. So because of that, though, I'm going to stick to just the main points that have to do with granting the replat. And number one, I think both of them just spoke about it, is hardship. And the letter that was submitted by the applicant, which is a part of the meeting minutes, clearly states in the very first paragraph that they are prohibited from building due to the encroachment of the structures. That is the hardship that they suffer, not the 99-foot depth. Every house is 99 feet, including myself. And the code clearly states that it requires hardship, and such conditions were not existing at the time the property owner purchased the property. The property owner did have a survey prepared prior to his purchase of the property, which clearly outlines that he was aware that the structures encroached. This was prepared for him and certified to him prior to him purchasing the property. So he was aware of the encroachments, and he purchased the property from a dead man at a very reduced price. And I think it's very clear he does not meet the hardship standard. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is in the staff report, specifically on page 1, which is the applicant's request, and specifically on page 3, which is the project analysis, both of them state that they are asking for the depth or the width to be reduced, that is what they're asking for. They do not talk in this project analysis, nor do they talk in their request about the minimum area of the property. And it is going to be significantly reduced. By bringing it down to 45, it is going to be 40% smaller than the average lot on that street. It's going to be 10% smaller than the required 6,000 square feet, and it's going to be 22% smaller than the smallest lot on that street already. And I do have a little spreadsheet for that if I could figure out how to get it up there. So I think that's very concerning that it's not really a great part of this staff report. In fact, I believe it was added later in the report after I spoke with the Katie Magruder, who originally did this staff report. And the third thing, or the other thing, it states in the modification of standards procedures in code that lot depth, minimum lot depth may be reduced, but not in a manner that would reduce the lot area below the requirements of the zoning district. It says that, but we're not asking for that in this thing. And I think also as a part of the minutes from the meeting, there was a zoning official's interpretation concerning lot plats with modifications dated 3/9/17, and it basically states that modification of standards is prohibited on non-conforming residential lots. They're prohibited for Chapter 65, which was the lot area, depth, width, what have you. He's asking to reduce the width of the lot, which is what reduces the area. And it says a Board of Zoning variance is required for this. He doesn't meet the standards for a variance. So I think this is a backdoor way to get around this. I think people did say that ultimately something does have to be done, but the nuisance, the problem, the issue that has plagued our neighborhood for years now is the vacant house. And I would like to say very quickly that when they made this initial application, the applicant's attorney called me personally to try to, I guess, gain my support, being the neighbor abutting the property. And I said to him, I said, I cannot believe after these couple of years, this bank would not negotiate with you and come to a resolution, which is when I learned he offered $250,000 for a 4,500 square foot property in Delaney Park, which I'm sure you all are familiar with is well below market value. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I have one question for you. Would you be supportive of that lot size if it was accompanied by a transfer of the 15-foot property to the
myself
southern one?
personally, I wouldn't be supportive of it, but I would not fight it because at least the main issue, which I have lived under as our neighborhood has, no, I'm not thrilled by it, sir. But would I come down here? No.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Jason Searle.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and thank you. Jason Searle, Gray Robinson, 301 East Pine Street, Orlando, here this afternoon as the applicant and the counsel for the property owner on the modifications. I'd like to thank Elizabeth and her planning staff, her presentation both today, as well as the thorough discussion we had at MPB when this matter was approved. We, as an adjacent property owner, continue to be frustrated by this house, just as the neighbors are. Each speaker you heard today, colleague bank attorney, not the bank attorney that spoke at MPB, each of those three individuals were represented at MPB. We had a thorough discussion. We established that we met all the requirements, and we were approved as outlined in the process. No rules were broken, none of those allegations that you're hearing, and I really don't want to go down that road because essentially you're reopening the MPB discussion and the findings that were made there. If we want, we could entertain any questions. Of course, be happy to discuss the MPB findings, but I think that's more into the weeds than we need to get here. Everyone shares the frustration of this poor condition of the home and the foreclosing bank ownership that's not been upkeeping it. However, that's a title matter. Any recourse for that is taken through the Florida courts or through the city code enforcement process, which I know there's a lengthy and expanding file on that, which has not been raised so far as part of this conversation. What is before you is our subject replat with modifications. It was all four requirements as outlined were met. Hardship and all of the other elements were thoroughly discussed, and MPB made their recommendation before you today. We respectfully ask that you follow what we believe are their right recommendations, since we have satisfied the ordinance requirements, the approval for which is not an appealable matter. So under law, we are entitled to this replat. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. With me this afternoon is my colleague, Jeff Aaron. If we want to talk about any of the history or the discussions with the bank property owner, we'd be happy to do that.
Jason, if we do this lot split, the 15-foot property has no value to your client other than what they can get from the southern landowner, right?
Jeff, do you want to adjust the?
Not knowing the full history, it's beyond me why we haven't been able to reach a conclusion of.
Jeff's been very much involved with those discussions and the history on it. This involved years of litigation long before my involvement on it. So I'd be happy, if I may, to pass the mic to him to answer those questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Aaron with Gray Robinson. So to answer your question directly, this is basically a last case resort for us to carve off these 15 feet. Our client has been in negotiations with Deutsche Bank since 2015. And so we've been in litigation, we've had negotiations, mediations, they've all failed. It's been years, 4 years. And so as our client looks into the future is what can I do? What can we do going forward? Well, perhaps if we carve off this 15 foot, you can at least develop a piece of land and cure at least the lion's share of this eyesore that exists. And then in the future, at some point, either the 15-foot piece of land would be reunited with the northern parcel if the house itself was demolished. Alternatively, it could go to Deutsche Bank. So there's really two sources for that 15-foot.
I know, right? I told y'all this was not going to be a fun one. All right.
If I may, I believe a lot of this discussion, and I said this at MPB, is a red herring of sorts. If we need to focus on the 4 requirements of the city's outline process. We made application, we met the requirements. As Jeff said, this was our last effort to do something productive with this property. MPB thoroughly vetted it. We talked for more than an hour that morning about it. All the neighbors spoke, we addressed it. MPB had a thorough board discussion about it, and the item was recommended for approval. So we stand behind that, want to move forward with it. This matter has been lingering for years between the 2 property owners. It had involved lengthy litigation. So any further delay in our mind does not do anything to solve this problem that the neighbors have. And we have it too. We're the adjacent property owner having to live right next to that house. So there was talk about a buyer, maybe delaying it 30 days to allow for the buyer. We're now almost 30 days since MPB and there is no buyer. There's been no outreach for us to talk about a third-party buyer in the property. We've acted in good faith. We've used the city process and we've met the requirements.
Mr. Sheehan.
I have a question to Jason. If we allow you all to go ahead and split this off, can you sell that additional 15 feet to someone else and then this property just remains an eyesore for the next 20 years? That's what I'm concerned about, is that, you know, you all kind of have an interest in negotiating. I understand that the bank has not been good because, I've been frustrated with the code enforcement stuff and having to, I'll be honest with y'all, I've been frustrated with y'all because I've had to send my officer out there to get the squatters out, and y'all have been creating a problem for the neighborhood, so I'm not too thrilled with Deutsche Bank right now. But then again, I also understand the neighbor's concern that if there's 15 feet dangling out there that can even get sold to a third party, that this situation is going to continue, in perpetuity and not get resolved. I understand, Jason, your client will get what they need, but I'm not getting what I need in terms of getting this property dispute resolved. And I know y'all are feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys, but I want this resolved. And I don't know how to make that happen if y'all won't get together and work this out. And if you get to go ahead and move forward and you can sell that 15 feet to whoever you want to, then I got a foreclosed house on that I can't do anything with. The neighborhood does, and this is impacting the neighbors, and it's not really fair to them. And the only reason I'm in favor of moving forward with a lot split, because it used to be 2 lots. Just because they built stuff between them, it used to be 2 lots. So there is 2 lots there. The issue here is this 15 feet of pool and garage. And how do we get this resolved? And I understand that you have a right to ask for it, but how can I make sure that you sell that to the property owner so they can get their clear title and get rid of it? We don't have any. I know this is I don't want to participate in tortious interference, but on the other hand, I don't want this dangling out there forever either.
To answer your question, yes, anybody can transfer any portion of property to anybody anytime. It's our free constitutional right. So. And I don't think any interference upon that or condition upon that is something that we want to go down the road of as a city. I don't want to speak for the city attorney, but that may be worth, what do you do if we start telling people, if you ever go to do something with this property, you have to sell it to this person? We've been ready, willing, and able. I said it at MPB, if there's a buyer, produce the buyer. We'll talk to the buyer. So it's not that we're not here and ready to discuss it.
If there were to be an independent appraisal done by someone that you two could agree upon, could we get this resolved? Because like I say, I want it, my interest and the neighbor's interest is to get this resolved. I don't think they're as opposed to the lot split as they are as getting this resolved.
Again, because it involves the bank. Let
Sure.
me turn it over to Jeff.
The only reason that I don't think an independent appraisal would be helpful is we've already been down that path. At some of the, prior to mediation, we did an appraisal. The bank had an appraisal, we had an appraisal, and
Oh,
they
the
were
value of the 15-foot by itself?
Of the value of the 15 feet
not
by itself.
specifically just for the 15-foot. It
That's
was the,
what I'm asking for.
yeah, we had a value of their house, a value of our lot, different scenarios if they demolish, if we sold to them.
What about making it simple and just the value based on the comps in the area of 15 feet in Wadeview Park?
Not done.
How about we do, can we, I don't know, Roy, can we do that as a, because it's so weird, can we do that as a condition before we allow the lot split to get that, to make it go there before we approve it?
We have approved, when people come in, when they originally came in for this development, they may have gotten a binding lot agreement, which we can require owners to do if their development requires the two lots to be bound.
Okay.
I would be a little uncomfortable requiring them to sell the property to a certain entity as a part of this process when their development does not require that these lots stay bound.
But they have a binding lot by the fact of they have mutual property on it. They kind of are bound whether we like it or not.
At least on the lot that the house is on, there's definitely, obviously improvements are crossing the line, but without a rationale for requiring the binding lot agreement, it would be difficult for, and I don't know what that rationale would be.
How about this?
In this instance.
Wait, hold on. How about this? I think as a city, and somebody else can jump in here if they want, what we'd like to see is the 15 feet reunited with the
That's what I want.
house that it sits
Yes.
under. The neighbors aren't going to object to your smaller lot if that circumstance occurs. So maybe we should continue this hearing to the next city council meeting and see if you guys can work together to figure out a way that might happen, that we would approve you can do it contingent on us coming back and taking that action, but I think we'd probably be willing to support this if the 15 feet were going to be either given or sold, or however you want to transfer it to the house that it sits under.
And an independent appraisal just on the 15 feet. Y'all are getting in the weeds, and this is the substantive issue. What is the value of that 15 by 99 foot piece of property?
Well, it's not worth anything to anybody except the homeowner to the adjacent to it.
Even if we can figure out what the value per square foot is in that area and just do it and do the math, even I can do that, and I was an art major. All right? I mean, I'm just saying that the neighbors have a legitimate beef.
Julie, can you get together with these guys and work over the next, assume we have a meeting in 2 weeks, next couple of weeks, and see if we can come up with a solution that doesn't require making a ridiculous decision.
I don't like to split the baby.
Yes, sir. And my litigation colleague's going to be back tomorrow. And I will also get in touch with Deutsche Bank to talk about code enforcement stuff. So they haven't had a land use lawyer working on it yet, but now I'm here, so
Okay,
I'll work on that too.
I'm not as, the code enforcement stuff bugging me, but I think that at the end of the day, if we can get this property sold to a homeowner, that's going to take care of most of everybody's issues. I don't want y'all to do the minimum under code enforcement, just because your code enforcement issues actually aren't that bad. But what happens is you're not securing the property and squatters are getting in there.
Yeah,
all right?
Beth Nar will be back tomorrow.
And why y'all can't
so
secure
we'll-
your property is beyond me, other than the fact that you're an absentee landlord. It's concerning the neighbors. So, again, I like the fact that these neighbors care about their neighborhood and they're here and they're fussing about it. But I would say it's in your client's, best interest to work with these folks and get it resolved and get us an independent evaluation at 15 feet so we can get moving forward and get something done.
All right, Commissioner Sheehan
sir.
moves that we continue this matter to
Absolutely.
the next council meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Hill seconds. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Then, so it's continued to the next council meeting.
Thank you, you all. I'm sorry about this, but it was a hot mess. Thank you.
Is that Bernie lurking in the back? I heard a rumor that you were elected president of the Florida Firefighters.
Congratulations, Bernie.
You want
Yeah.
to come up and tell us about it?
All right. We're on new business.
In 2 minutes total.
Yeah, start the clock. I've been on the campaign trail, Mayor. Well, thank you for acknowledging this, and I did pop in to say hi and thank you to every one of you. I've been a part of this family for 18 years, and under your encouragement and leadership and some other people in the room who have encouraged me over the years to lead and be a leader in my profession, I decided to, I'm sorry, I'm eating some breath mints. I decided to take on the role of running for FPF president, representing over 26,000 firefighters. I ran a campaign over the last month and a half, and on Friday I was elected by acclamation. So I'm very proud of the accomplishment, but obviously couldn't happen without Ron Glass and the 1365 leadership, as well as all of you. So part of me running was I'm a firefighter still on the ground. I have the voice of the firefighters throughout the state, so I took a lot of pride in still being on the job. And obviously, there's a lot of expected from me. For those who inherit a lot is expected. So I look forward to the challenge and working with you, Mayor, over the next couple of years and doing what we have to do for Florida's firefighters. Thank you.
Congratulations. How long is the term?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you the first from our area to?
First one from Orlando, yes. Yes. Very proud of that. And look, the whole state's looking to us for our leadership, not just in labor, but obviously with your leadership, Mayor, and this council, so.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do some more hearings then. Let's see. Hearing number 2, Madam Clerk, Vista Park Development Agreement. I don't have any notes for this one, so is there a motion to adopt, Commissioner Gray?
Motion to adopt, sir.
Second. Motion and a second. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so the motion carries. Number 4 is rescission of the Millennium Development Regional Impact Development Order, Districts 4 and 6. Is there a motion on that one?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ings, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Anyone care to comment? Discussion among commissioners. All in favor indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, number 5, on June the 3rd, 2019, Council adopted an initial assessment resolution for the city's imposition of an assessment that will assist in funding charity health care to uninsured and indigent members of the community. The hospitals subject to the assessment support the assessment. To complete the assessment proceedings and consider adoption of the final assessment resolution, Council is required under the city's Home Rule Special Assessment Ordinance to hold a public hearing. A notice of the hearing was advertised in the Orlando Sentinel on May the 29th, 2019. Madam Clerk, would you read the title of the resolution, please, into the record?
Hearings number 5, a final assessment resolution of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, authorizing, levying, and imposing a non-ad valorem assessment within the areas of the city limits described herein for the purpose of supporting the provision of charity health care by the city's hospitals to indigent members of the Central Florida community and the viability of those hospitals as important contributors to the city's economy, finding and determining that certain real property is specially benefited by the increased support for charity care, making certain other findings in relation thereto, establishing the method of assessing and collecting the assessment against the real property, specifying the maximum annual assessment amount and the maximum assessment lien to be levied against the specially benefited real property, confirming the initial assessment resolution, providing for certain other authorizations and delegations of authority in relation thereto, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
You repeat that all over again?
I can do better than that, Commissioner. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Mike Griffin, would you come up and just, I know I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but this is such a good thing, you know, good partnership with the hospitals. I think anybody from the public that was listening to this would have no idea what we're doing.
Hi,
But
thank
why
you
don't you
for
just, this second year or third year?
Second year. We're partnering with Orlando Health. Of course, you all know that Orlando's blessed with 2 great not-for-profit hospitals that do more charity care in this community than any other hospitals in the state. prior to last year, because of the funding structure, we didn't have access to the money that helps pay for that care, which enables us to do even more in the community. So with your help, we've got this ordinance now, this assessment system that enables us to do that. We're really appreciative of your work.
Thanks. That helpful, Commissioner Ortiz? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone from the public that would like, other than Mike, to speak to this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, hearings, ordinances, first reading, number 1, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2019-37, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, relating to the city's growth management plan, providing the summer 2019 package of growth management amendments pursuant to the expedited state review process, amending future land use sub-area policies S.12.8, S.12.9, and S.12.9.1, amending historic preservation element figure HP-2, providing for amendment of the city's growth management plan, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify relating to this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Hearings, ordinances on second reading, number 1.
Ordinance 2019-32, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located south of East Michigan Street, east of Mayor Street, and west of South Brown Avenue, and comprised of .2089 acres of land, more or less, and amending the city's boundary description, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as residential low intensity on the city's official future land use maps, designating the property as the one-family residential district, R-1, on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Hill. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to testify? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2.
Ordinance 2019-31, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, rezoning certain land generally located south of Lee Vista Boulevard, west of State Road 417, north of State Road 528, and east of Narcoossee Road, and comprised of 1,572 acres of land, more or less, from no city zoning to the Planned Development District with the Aircraft Noise Overlay District, providing a development plan and special land development regulations of the Planned Development District, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to testify? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 3.
Ordinance 2019-34, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for certain land generally located north of West Washington Street, east of North Texas Avenue, and west of North Dollins Avenue, comprised of 1.76 acres of land, more or less, from industrial to mixed-use corridor, medium intensity, changing the property zoning designation from general industrial to medium intensity mixed-use corridor, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
Move adopt.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to testify? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And number 4.
Ordinance 2019-35, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the Orlando Health Plan Development Zoning Ordinance for property generally located west of South Orange Avenue, east of the railroad tracks, north of West Cayley Street, and south of West Gore Street, to update certain exhibits to reflect Orlando Health's property acquisitions and to reflect the development of an office and parking garage, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify relating to this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. And ordinance is on first reading, number 1.
Ordinance 2019-36, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located east of Narcoossee Road, north of Waterline Road, and west of Lake Whippoorwill, and comprised of 2.89 acres of land, more or less, and amending the city's boundary description, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as urban village on the city's official future land use maps, amending the boundaries and text of growth management plan, sub-area policy S.40.9, to include the property in the southeast Orlando sector, designating the property as a planned development zoning district on the city's official zoning maps, providing a site plan and special land development regulations for the planned development, providing for consent to the municipal services taxing unit for Lake Whippoorwill, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gray, second by Commissioner Stewart. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify relating to this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Commissioner Gray, we haven't had anything on Wee Wahootie in a long time.
Hang in there.
Just like saying that, don't you?
Yep. All right, number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2019-39, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's growth management plan to change the future land use map designation for certain land generally located south of North Orange Avenue, west of Highland Avenue, north of Weber Street, and east of North Magnolia Avenue, comprised of 6.4 acres of land, more or less, from urban village to public, recreational, and institutional, further amending the growth management plan to amend the boundary of sub-area policy S.14.5 to exclude the property from the sub-area policy, changing the 12 property zoning designation from the Plan Development Zoning District with the traditional city and special plan overlay districts to the public use with the traditional city and special plan overlay districts, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's error, permit disclaimer, and effective date.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public who would like to testify? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and so the motion carries. Do we have any general appearance requests?
One.
We do. Okay, then that concludes the agenda business of the Orlando City Council for today. All right, we do have one request for general appearance, and if there's anybody else that would like to address council, if you turn in one of these general appearance forms. Randolph Jenkins. If you'll state your name and your address, and then you'll have 5 minutes to address council.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Randolph Jenkins. I am here today because I have an event next month, and I needed to get an extension on loudspeakers, the permit for that, past 10 p.m. We actually had a different venue for this event. We had that about 2 months ago, and about a week and a half ago, that place actually canceled on us. So we just found another place last week, and I was informed that I needed to come here today to get an extension on that permit.
See the gentleman in the police uniform right there?
Can
They
I ask
handle
what the
those
event is and
permits.
the location?
It's at Majestic Event Center. What else did you ask?
Oh,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
yeah, the event and location. I was just wondering if that's Commissioner Stewart's district. So.
I'm trying to figure out where it is, son.
Majestic
John
Event Center.
Young.
It's on Colonial and John Young. It's Majestic Event Center. It's
Oh, it's
Little
Majestic,
restaurant,
okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the address.
Okay, anyways, that's the police chief, and 18A permits are under his purview.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, that's surprising. Anything else? Then we'll stand adjourned.